So obviously this is not my machine, so bear with me because I actually want to hack here, do a little coding. Hopefully some of you have your laptops. How many of you have your laptops? Okay, coding is in peril, but I will code, and you can watch me suffer trying to use Windows for the first time in 5 years. All right, so as it says here, this one. As it says here, my name is Adam. I'm very, very happy to be in Beirut today. So I guess I should say, marhaba, ya shabab, wa ya banat. Shukran كتير for having me. Okay, so at any time, just feel free to interrupt me and ask questions. I want this to be interactive. I want you to get something out of it. So here it goes. So I'm actually a Android market engineer. I don't use App Engine professionally right now. I've used it in the past. I've used it personally. But I'm sure if there's any of you in here who have actually done a lot of stuff with it professionally, you're probably more of an expert at it than I am. But that's sort of the point. It's easy, right? Anybody can get started and build their own business on it. So so the part one will be sort of selling the hosting, and I'm not a salesman at all because I'm not Lebanese. So you know, no offense. All compliments. So after that, we'll get into the hacking. So the sales part, though, you'll probably really want to push me and ask about the features and compare it to unnamed competitors that start with A and with O or end with N. Sorry. Okay. So in the meanwhile, if you do have your laptop, you could get Eclipse if you don't have Eclipse. How many of you have used Eclipse? All right, that's pretty good. How many of you write Java? Okay, how many of you write Python? Python. William's laughing. Okay. All right, and then you get Eclipse. Then you would get the plugin for Eclipse, and then you would get the App Engine SDK. So that's a few steps to get set up. Okay, so probably good actually that we do the code lab because we'll get a lot of people rolling. All right, so hosting on Google. I mean, right now there's a ton of people adopting this. So we have 150,000 new apps every week. So 150 new ones, right? 100,000 developers per month. How many people are in this room? How many people here? 200? Okay, so I hope that next month it's 100,200. A little spike. Okay, so when we have 1 billion page views per day, and that's sort of across all the apps that exist. So, and these are the page views. So that's the growth of it, right? So it's pretty popular. So here are some of the App Engine partners. This is a really incomplete list. I mean, there's actually plenty of Google properties besides Google Labs here that use it. So lots of inside Google also we use it. Can anybody name a Google product that uses App Engine? Back there. Oh, can anybody name a Google product that uses App Engine? No. It's actually Google Moderator, if anybody knows what that is. It's sort of for, in a forum like this, you could have a vote done and everybody votes on it, on something, and or give suggestions. Okay, so how many people here have used App Engine? How many people here run a website? Okay. How many people here want to write software? How many people here want to run a data center? All right, so the point is managing everything is hard, right? So you have the machines in your garage, you know, and then the power goes out or it rains on it or something like that, and you have a big problem. So you have the hardware level, and then, of course, you would have to magically grow that the moment you get successful. Like before you even read about it on TechCrunch, you would need to go to the store, buy 100 more machines, throw them in your garage, call the power company, etc. And so basically your super successful product that was, well, it was going to be successful, but then everybody went to it, and then it crashed out your one server that you had, and your 15 minutes of fame are over. So then you have, of course, the sort of like the administration of the data center. You're getting the patches and upgrades for your machines, and then on top of that, you sort of also still have to develop your infrastructure. And let's be honest, if you have a bunch of servers in your garage, if someone's halfway around the world wants to use your service, it's not going to be that fast, at least compared to, let's say, a Google product where there's data centers all over the world to serve the users the fastest in that region. So these are sort of the hidden costs of do-it-yourself hosting. And has anyone here done do-it-yourself hosting? You have any servers? So obviously a few of you want to run a data center, so you enjoy that. But that probably makes you want to pay attention to this talk even more, so you can sort of understand how this sort of platform works. But for how many of you has it been painful? Yeah. And I guess there's sort of a thing with running a data center, right? Is that you really have to wear a pager, right? Because you don't know when it's going to decide that it doesn't want to work anymore, right? So we say that we wear the pagers so that you don't have to, and that's really the point, right? There is somebody at Google who's wearing a pager when, let's say, a DOS attack happens, and somebody tries to attack your service, right? Somebody else is going to get up, and you can keep sleeping or keep partying. So this is the infrastructure. Does anybody want to take a guess about what the front end is? That's pretty accurate in some ways, because so the front end is the most localized, right? So it's in the data center that's used for the Middle East. Your code is not running there. Right? It's going to then make the request to your code running in, there's basically 3 locations globally, let's say. So sort of one for every major continent. So you have sort of the serving infrastructure right here that can handle just the load. Then the actual requests, your code would be running here on the app server. Okay, so it's going to be called by the app server. And then you have static files. Now, I think this slide is sort of wrong. In some sense, the static files are here. So let's say you have a game. Okay, it's going to have a lot of images, really big images. The images are the same for everyone. So those are going to get cached out basically in the same places that the front ends are, so locally, right? You don't have to go back all the way just to get something that never changes. It's the dynamic requests that are going to go to your code running on the app server. And then the app server, right? In your code, you make calls to the app engine APIs, right? So let's say you want to get info, you want to hit the data store, or you want to get info about the user, basically who it is, or you want to do image manipulation, then you would be calling back yet another layer, or possibly out somewhere else in the case of a URL fetch, where you're hitting yet another service, which is also possible. Okay, so let's sort of think about what the app server does, where your code is running. A question that a lot of people have is sort of how do we guarantee that when my code's running, that it's not going to get sort of killed or hindered in some way by somebody else's code running on the same machines and all of this. This is basically handled transparently for you. You don't have to care about it. Just trust us, because we do the same thing, right? We also put our code out there across these data centers running in the same machines with other people's code, right? And you know, there's basically the app manager is making sure that nothing's getting starved, and then we spin up new instances, right? Because each of these, your code is always able to handle a request in isolation, right? And so let's say that we go there, it's given the request, and then it like dies, let's say. So we would be able to send it to basically another instance, right? And it should give back the same answer. So you need to design with that in mind, right? That you can't, let's say, share. It's not like running something on a single server where you could like share some static object between requests or something like that, right? Everything is able to be replicated across the world. And it's only the data store that keeps them all in sync. And so I guess, can anybody sort of explain what that means? When would there be a conflict between the code running, let's say, in Europe and the code running in North America? No, I guess your same code running in the two places. Now let's say you have a. Can somebody tell me what kind of website they run? Something with a database? News? Okay, something with a per user data. Okay, social network. Okay, now let's say that for whatever reason you give your friend your login info, and he's sitting in California right now, and you both you log into your account, and then there's yet another, and then you have relationship status, okay, on Facebook. But Facebook running on App Engine, or not, it doesn't matter, okay? And now you go in there, and right now it says single, and then he is about to change it to, it's complicated. I knew you were gonna say that. And I'm not on Facebook, I never have been, so what's another status? Married, okay, yes. Those are the same though, right? Okay. So, all right, so what's gonna happen, right? In the sort of the App Engine case, what does your code need to do to handle that? So your code is replicated. You have the same exact bit of code being run, but there's two different inputs to it. Yes. So there's basically a transaction, and one of them will lose. One of you got there faster. Right. So it starts a transaction, right? So that's, you basically are going to have to write your code with that in mind. This could fail, right? And that's what makes it able to be replicated. And keep your relationships in order. All right, so the app server sort of checks the cache, but I think that this is really basic, right? It checks the cache for an instance. If the instance is not initialized, then it goes and executes the request. Otherwise, it reads it. That's just the definition of a cache, right? So really simple, right? So sort of the so this is sort of what we just talked about, right? How the response is returned. Again, we go to your code running in the app server, and then your code, when it makes the API calls, could go back to various other services. I'm going to go through those. So does anybody know what Memcache is? All at once? Yes. Yes. So, but it's really big, so it's unlikely that for most of us that it's going to be actually pushing anything out because it hasn't been recently used. Then the data store. Yes, the key value. right? So it is the data store. It is the database, right? But it's not a relational database. It's key value pairs, as he said. And we can go in. How many of you here use SQL? Okay, quite a few. So we can talk about that. I don't think I even have to have a slide because you're going to ask me anyway. All right, so URL fetch is, I think the name also, go ahead. Now the cool thing about this is, like quite a few other things here, it's the actual infrastructure that we at Google use for fetching URLs. So if you're hitting a service with this, I mean, it is the best that there is, right? And what this also means is that we fully support you running your code on App Engine, but then hitting, like, let's say the Twitter API or something like that, right? Okay, and then mail, you can both send mail and receive mail. So go ahead. He has to be in that you administer. Yeah. I actually don't know why that exists. Well, yeah, that would have been my guess, but yeah. That's the official answer still, if you say it's the official answer. Okay, so XMPP, does anyone know what XMPP is? Yes. So the chat protocol. So in this case, it's, and in the example we'll actually use this, right? But in this case, you don't necessarily need to use it for chat. Really, it's a way to push messages, right? So you could push it to even some other service. So it wouldn't necessarily be a chat in that case. Cron, what is cron? Scheduled jobs. So does anyone currently run some sort of website that uses crons? Yes. What do you do? What do you use crons for? Yeah, I mean, in Google, it's really quite common, right? Almost, there's sort of the most up-to-date information, right? So let's say what email has come into your inbox, but there's so many other things that just need to be updated periodically. When should you never schedule a cron? Don't ever schedule the cron at midnight, because everyone else schedules it then too, right? And this is running on a shared data center. So images, does anyone know what the image service lets you do? So it actually takes care of some of the image manipulation for you, and I think it's reasonable to expect that more will get added to that. So if you've ever had to deal with, let's say, rotating an image or something like that when you make a website, it's just there for you. It's just an API call, so you don't have to deal with that. Blob store. Blob store is for storing arbitrary blobs files, right? Just don't put movies and stuff up there, guys. All right, and then the user service. The user service is really simple. It just tells you who the user is and whether or not that user is an admin. And the good thing about this, right, it sounds like, oh, that's not a big deal. The nice thing is you don't ever have to build that login page, the authentication, deal with the spam, create CAPTCHAs, all these kind of things. It's just done for you. All your code wants to know is, who is it? Oh, like we need more technical difficulties. Okay, so just really simple, and then you would use that to, let's say, deal with let's say you have groups of users, you would be maintaining the groups in the data store. So you're going to use this, whatever you get from here, as the key in here, or whatever your code needs to do based on the user. So all it's going to give you is who the user is. But that in itself is really nice, because it's not just that you probably don't want to implement your own authorization service, but what happens when someone comes to your website and you have your cool new startup and they get there and they go, please create a username and login. And then half the time, it doesn't really happen. Chances are, though, that they already have a Gmail account, and they'll just say, okay, and keep going. They don't even have to click, actually. It's just going to happen. Their username will be up there. Your app will be able to read it, etc. Really handy, I think, for a startup. So, like I said, the app master, sort of what's handling the allocation of the resources. But I really think you don't need to know about that. Even if you're hitting quotas, it still probably doesn't matter for you. You would just need to fix your code or pay money. So I'll go through these. So the static content service, I sort of mentioned this already. Static content, right, is things that don't change. And so they're stored in a totally separate location. You would need, when you upload your app, that is when you upload the code of your app, you're also going to upload those static content files. So that's how you can think about it. Though at the same time, so you upload them together, but then the code is being run on the app server. The static content is out there all over the world, probably cached in some way. So you also get an admin console for free. It's nice because it probably has a lot more features than you would get around to adding, even if you have a very demanding product manager. So it sort of lets you get some metrics on your app. That would probably also help you deal with, if you ever hit the quotas, analyzing your traffic. And I think it's reasonable to expect that this will get richer and richer as time goes on. And again, that's nice. You don't have to do anything, and you're getting more features. So the question is, how much does this cost? Free. It's basically free. If you do get really successful, you will have to start paying, but the costs are really pretty good. I mean, if we look at the and anyone for whom this is a question, if you really go look at the site, and I'll have a link to it. I think if you estimate the cost compared to running your own, then it's clearly like astronomically better. And if you compare it to the unnamed competitor that starts with A and ends with N, it's still quite a bit better. So it's always free to get started, and I think that really is key, because getting started is the real battle. Once you're successful, you don't have to worry. So some example quotas: 6.5 CPU hours per day, 1 gigabyte of storage. Okay, you guys can read, right? So 2,000 recipients emailed a day. I don't know if anybody's bumping into that. I could see it happening, but so these chat messages, you can get quite a few there too. So the quotas are here, and this presentation, by the way, will be available online, so you can get these URLs. You don't have to try to type them in right now, or if you Google App Engine quotas, it will be there. So you can write the code that is executed by the app server. Your code can be written in Python or Java, that's correct. So, go ahead. Pardon? That's correct, okay. You're stealing my thunder. Actually, you should come up and then I can go explore Lebanon. I'm only half kidding. So anything that compiles down to the JVM is fine, right? And so there's sort of a new project being added every day, right, where someone says, I mean, basically what usually happens is people have their existing knowledge and skills, and they want to use that, or they have existing code, they want to use that, and so they find some sort of way to convert, or they create one themselves and upload it publicly and let other people share, and those people collaborate to make it even better. So I'm not going to go into that exact one because it's just one of many, right? So what's new? From my perspective, is just sort of getting better, right? But some of the services I mentioned are new. If you don't want to use Google authentication, you could go the OAuth route. And I think the biggest new thing, though, is really the two more pricing schemes, right? And so we're doing one for enterprise. So the Google App Engine for Business sort of has a completely, I don't want to say completely different model. You're still going to pay more or less according to how much you use, but it's sort of a little more. It hangs with it, and it's less of a step function. Okay. So and it includes some other sort of businessy features, like let's say you have a bunch of different. Our idea is sort of that a corporation would do all sorts of different apps in App Engine. So then, in the same way, has anyone here used Google Apps for your domain? So I recommend that. I mean, Google uses it. Also, if you're getting your website, if you're getting your URLs through name.com, it's just one radio button to flip, and you get that for free. So you get, let's say you purchase x.com, you get mail.com, mail.x.com, et cetera, et cetera. You can actually configure it, but by default, right? So, and everybody at your domain would then get Gmail service, docs, et cetera. Really handy for an organization. So then in this model, you would have whatever.apps.x.com, and you're going to put a ton of apps there. Let's say in your company you have like billing, so billing.apps.x.com, et cetera. That way you don't clash with the Google ones, the top level ones. So and then SSO, if you're dealing with the company intranet. Oh, the big one, the SQL one. Okay, so does anybody know about this SQL and App Engine? Right, so this has been a major question or a major demand all along, both externally and internally, from businesses to be able to do SQL-like stuff. The thing to remember here is that it really lets you do a subset of SQL on App Engine because they're fundamentally different, right? So if you are using SQL, you have one database running in one location. It's never going to be as scalable. So it's a different style of coding, basically, and relies on joins and things like that. With a key value model, as he said, you can't translate it to that, right? So you cannot do everything that you can do in SQL on App Engine, but it certainly helps for the great number of you who are familiar with the SQL syntax. It's a really big help to getting started to be able to use that same syntax on App Engine. Are there any questions about that? Go ahead. Right. so basically the point is, if my system is sophisticated enough to warrant using App Engine, my system is sophisticated enough to warrant using the features of MySQL that App Engine doesn't have. I guess I would say that you can do arbitrarily sophisticated stuff with a key value model because every Google product is built on that, with a few caveats. But you know, every Google product that you can name is built on that, right? So Gmail, etc. So if they figured out how to do it, it forces you as the application developer to do to make some tough decisions, or to really build into your model to think about what happens in that clash, right? And to design your data structure in a different way. It's really that your tables are going to change, right? So you got into thinking about your tables. Your tables are going to get flatter, right? Denormalized. And so you got into thinking about it, you know, when they first get people to use Microsoft Access, and it's just a university administrator or someone who's not technical, they want them to think about their data sort of in human terms, like, oh, this is a student, right? And then this is an address, and it's in a different table. Instead of saying a student has an address, right? Right in there. So basically denormalizing it, where you look it up by the, instead of sort of going to one place to look up one thing and going to the other place to look up his address, you would just within the student have his address already, and then it's just one lookup, and you don't need to do the join anymore. Or you can also think about, a lot of people have joins that they don't really need to have. So for data that never change, you could just have two indices, right? Because the whole problem with having multiple indices is that when the data changes, the one will be out of date for a second. But for a lot of things, that doesn't matter. So it really is just going to force you to do everything different. I'm not saying it's trivial, because it is different, but as far as complexity is concerned, actually the key value model is sort of the least complex, right? It's very basic. It's just a hash table, right? But it requires a little bit of a departure from just sort of Microsoft Access tutorial 101, or even Java tutorial 101. If we all think back to our OO class in university, right? They would always try to force us to make a class sort of around a real world entity. And this is going to require you to think more about what's fastest, what gives you the best performance, right? So anyway, that's the URL. If you just do Google App Engine for Business, there's a FAQ there, and there's a roadmap. Because it is not finalized, there's more to come. So I already asked this, who here has used App Engine? I think it was like, yes, very few of you, which means this is worthwhile. Oh, I've used App Engine. Okay. Actually, none of the Googlers here raised their hand. That's kind of scary. Okay. So does any of you who have used App Engine have an app to demo, where I could just put it in the URL right now?
No, this is basically a issue tracking system. A very simple one. It's not done yet, but it uses App Engine to. It has two interfaces, one for the admin and one for the front for the people. And here you can see your like issues. And for example, if I go to the full list, okay, I see here different types of status in each issue, and with everything like sorting, etc. If you want to add new issues, it's very simple actually. So you can here like use this interface, and it's all this application is just one file, I'm just
And multiple users can see the same issues?
sorry, no, it.
Or you only see your
yeah,
issues?
no, each user can select from my watch list. He selects what projects to watch, and he can get like an updated box with latest issues. And on the homepage, he can see the latest changes in the issues and tracked by different users and etc. And each issue can here you can see. Sorry, I'm not seeing this. Okay, so here you can see like a stream of updates. Let me just try another one with more updates. As you can see, it's just a demo, so it's still
Not much data, yeah.
Yeah. So here, for example, this is a stream of events. So changes are marked like each status is highlighted in some way, and you can just simply add another one. Okay, so it's now fixed, and it appears as fixed here, and also on my issues list it will be like marked here. That's
cool.
simply.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So he told me earlier he has a Google interview next week, and I can see why. We have about 10 minutes left. This is not the end. I wanted to just introduce the hacking part and invite any of you to, I don't know, is it cool if I invite them to stay after? If they wish, can they stay after? I will stay after. Okay, so questions right now? We good on that? Okay. So that's good. We'll roll to the next part. So this is where the presentations will be at, and the reason it says G Saudi Arabia is that we just came from a Google Developer Day in Saudi Arabia. So there's this presentation and a bunch of other ones there that I encourage you to check out. So it's bit.ly/GKSA for Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. All right, so meanwhile, here in the Kingdom of Lebanon, I know, man. All right, so this is my dear colleague. He wanted to create a bot on App Engine using the XMPP, so chat, right? And sort of using the. Has anyone here done anything with n-grams? N-grams, so n-grams. So basically, you would take random text, and actually, I should say non-random text. So let's say some sort of corpus. Like they take Shakespeare, and then if they grab, let's say a trigram, you always grab 3, and then you grab another 3, random 3, and you put them together, and you never go past a period, right? A full stop, yeah? And then you connect them like this. Let's say you always connect some random number that's reasonable, like maybe one that corresponds to the average length of the sentences in your original data. You can generate text that seems very realistic because it always uses a word that would actually be next to that other word, right? Because it's always grabbing 3, and then just finds the matches. Of course, some will never get used if they're only used once, right? Or they would only be at the end of the sentence, maybe. Okay, so so if you Google n-grams, it's really interesting because it actually comes out quite realistic. All right, so this is sort of an his demo, which I'm gonna cut, but these are all things that that you could put into your bot. So this is a Python demo. So here's the URL. I realize that most of you don't have your laptops, and I don't even know what would happen to the internet connection if all of us got on our laptops at once and started pulling down code. But this is the URL, and again, it'll be in the presentation, and the presentations are available online, so if you want to follow up on this, that would be great. Okay, so I'm going to go to that URL. So here's sort of the introduction to this. As I said, I haven't used Windows in 10 years, right? So I'm actually going to do this live for you on a relatively brand new OS for me. Okay, so this involves getting Mercurial. Mercurial is a repository system. And then we basically have snapshots at 4 different points in the development of this app, meaning that you could sort of step in at any one of them and change the path of it. And you can also, the nice thing about that is that if you get something wrong or try to implement it, you have sort of the gold standard for each step. Okay. So I think running short on time though, what we would have to do for this in any case is get App Engine set up. And so I actually want to, instead of downloading Mercurial, first I want to get Eclipse first. Since it sounds like less than half of you, yeah, this guy. You come tomorrow? Okay. All right, so then how should we do this? Okay, we'll go ahead with Mercurial then. So we just happen to use Mercurial in this case. It could be SVN. It doesn't matter. Okay. Oops. I come pre-programmed. Sorry. Did they not? What Windows is this? Does not require admin rights. Probably 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay. Oh man, this is bad. So I have an excuse, okay? I have it all on my machine, but we can't project on my machine. So I have the code and Mercurial. I have the code downloaded anyway. I do not have the presentation. The presentation is in the cloud. Yes. We couldn't share and copy from each other as much as we do if we were still emailing PowerPoint presentations around. Okay. All right. So at this point, before we jump into coding, I want to invite anyone who just wanted to see sort of the sales presentation of App Engine and doesn't want to get into the code. Feel free to get up without offending me. I'm serious. Okay. Probably this means that you'll do it when you feel like it, or when you. Okay. So. What is it again? CMD? Ooh. That went deep into ROM. All right. Is it going to work? Yes. Okay. Somebody's on my side. So here we actually, now they're getting the hint. This is rough. Okay. We did run out of our hour, but okay. How's this? Those of you who have laptops and want to do this with me will be with my laptop here. Okay, and we'll hack this. And I'm going to put up the URL right now, and we're just going to work through this together. And I will get you with an App Engine app up and running on a URL. So thank you very much for your time, all of you.